Just start recording now. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we'll make a start. Welcome everyone to our first BSME English chat. This is very exciting. I hope you're all looking forward to what we're going to explore today. So today's webinar will be Enriching English Through Technology. Just a reminder, this webinar is being recorded so you can share with your staff in school. If you log any questions that you have on the chat bar, and at the end we will try and go back and revisit those questions, okay? So today myself and Carla will discuss how we use technology at SAFA. We are then very lucky to have Alice from Century, who will be exploring how we can use Century through English, okay? So just a reminder, it is being recorded so you can share this with the other staff in your school, okay? So myself and Carla will begin talking about how we use technology at SAFA. Okay. Just a little note, Naomi was meant to join us from Seesaw. She is unable to do so, but she will video her notes and send them along, so that will all be sent to your school as well.
Hi everyone, my name's Carla and as Fee said, I also work at SAFA. So the reason for this webinar is to obviously talk about how we can use technology. You know, obviously in the global pandemic, everything that's going on at the moment, more so than ever, teachers have been having to think creatively and innovatively to kind of think of how they can help their children learn in class or at home, depending on where they are. So by incorporating modern technology, teachers can develop more creativity and innovation. Many believe that technology can enhance individual learning and also reduce the gaps of those boundaries that some children may have, especially with writing and reading. And as we all know, technology is widely used by professionals across a wide range of fields and industries. Its inclusion into the classroom may help students feel more at ease and familiar when approaching the start of their career as they get older. We do live in a very tech-savvy world, so technology does play an important part in children's lives. So that's kind of a quick overview on why we use technology. And Fee, if you don't mind going on to the next slide.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so innovation in education. The recent pandemic opened new and exciting doors for teachers. I know it mightn't have seemed that way at the time, but now when we look back, we all developed so many new skills that we didn't do so before, okay? We showed flexibility and gained new innovative teaching and learning skills, okay? Education has changed forever and we just need to go with the changes and modernise our practice. Teachers need to discuss and share ideas and skills they have gained. The BSME English Network enables professionals from all around the schools to share best practice. So please check this out and put up anything best practice that has worked really well for you, because this will support not only teachers who have been teaching for 4 or 5 years. It will also help teachers who are new in Dubai or new in the Middle East who have only come out of their NQT and need as much ideas as possible. In SAFA Community School, we have a thing called Communities of Change, where we have like an English group, teaching and learning group, where we all get together every few weeks to discuss best practice throughout different year groups, okay? This is a really good chance for us to have a professional dialogue and share what's working well in the classroom. And it's a quick way, as we're a big school, to talk through all the different year groups, okay? So here are some digital platforms that we use in SAFA to enrich English. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but this is something that you can take in your own time. I have put up some, as you know, Twitter is such an amazing platform for influencers, and I've put up a lot of English pages, is it for vocab or reading or books, that you can follow for ideas and also general teaching inspiration. I got all these Twitters from Vocab Ninja book, and they had a page, so they have selected the best practices that they follow. Also McGrammar and Mr. P that we've all heard about. So take your own time to click on those links and find out more.
Okay, thanks, Fee. Obviously, we were going to have Naomi to go through Seesaw in more detail, but unfortunately, she can't be here. So I'm just going to show you how we use Seesaw at SAFA. I'm sure most schools now are probably on board with this platform as well, as it's a really good tool to kind of evidence the children's work. So we use it for English, we use it a lot for creative writing. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click, oh, sorry, Fee, if you can click on that link for me. This is an example of how children who maybe aren't necessarily the best writers, but orally they can retell a story or tell something orally and use a lot of enriching vocabulary. Okay, but it's a really nice example of how we use it to enhance the vocabulary, which obviously after he had done that story, it made it much easier for the child to actually write down the recount of that story because he'd actually verbalized it first. Another great example, if you can go onto the Seesaw blog, this is a nice way for children to peer assess. So there's a new element now on Seesaw where it's got a blog section. If you go into your settings, it will allow the children to post work, and then it allows the other children to comment on it. So if you wanted to do a peer assessment activity, what would happen is the children, they would comment and make recommendations on each other's work. You could do that for all of the activities. You can do it for maybe just one or two. And it's just a nice way, again, because obviously of social distancing, children can't go around and help each other. It's a nice way they can kind of support each other whilst being socially distanced as well. We use it for guided reading, so we'll upload maybe some text that the children would have to read. Again, we would differentiate this. We would have for maybe the children who can't necessarily write a lot, they would have the opportunity to verbalize. So they would click on the voice recording option and they would orally tell you their answers using STEM sentences. And then you're more able, obviously, you would expect them to have to type their answers and again, use the STEM sentences and justify their answers. So it's a really good tool because it allows access for all, because children have the options. Do they have to type? They can upload, they can voice record, they can do a video. So not just some children are accessing the learning, all of the children are accessing the learning, sorry. Another thing that we like to do at SAFA as well is sometimes we'll post something just as a post on Seesaw and then the children will comment underneath. So this example down the bottom here where it says interaction with students, I put an interactive thesaurus on there and I gave the children a word and they all went on to the thesaurus and they had to come up with different words and they wrote it on the newsfeed at the bottom. If a child had written a word before somebody else, then they would see that in the comments and then they would have to find another word that would mean the same word as what they've written already. So it's just some really nice examples. Like Fee said earlier, all of these slides are interactive, so please make the time to click on them and have a look at the activities in more details. I do apologise for the technical problem, but technology is a great thing, but when it works, it's great, but when it's not, well, just go with the flow.
Yeah,
but,
I definitely had definitely had flashes back at distance learning there, so sorry about that, guys. Okay, thanks so much, Carla, that was amazing. So at SAFA, we're very excited because we have just begun our journey with Pubble. I know there's a lot of schools already in Dubai who are using Pubble. So what we plan to do with Pubble, we've just had an induction with Simon this week and all the staff are raving about it. They can't wait to use it in the classroom. So we're going to be using it to plan lessons linked to the national curriculum, then Pacific lessons linked to SPIG to support teachers in that teaching and learning. We're going to develop free writing. We found in the pandemic that our writing was a real focus, and even coming back to school now, we want to raise that attainment. So how we're going to do that, we're going to introduce more free writing, giving the children opportunities, especially our boys, to kind of write what they want and using different kind of technology to enhance that, okay? We're going to look at the exemplars. So Pubble is amazing because it uses children's examples. So if you wanted to see an expected year 2 for a narrative piece, you can go on, you can search that and it will come up. So it's really good for the other children to see, okay, this is my target as the other child is the same age, for them to see that for good opportunities for writing. Year 5 and 6 at SAFA will have their own account with Pubble, and they will be able to have that access to the platform for self and peer assessment, and also giving them a purpose for their writing, so giving them purpose to publish their writing, okay? We will use it for challenging MIT, so we'll have different kind of lessons that we can copy the link, and although all the children won't have login to Pubble, but we can copy the link and put it up onto their Seesaw. So if you want to challenge a small group for a certain lesson, we're going to do that through Seesaw and also SEN interventions. We're going to team up, so I'm going to be working alongside our head of assessment at SAFA to develop writing moderation. So I want to expand this more professional dialogue with other schools in Dubai, and also hopefully looking at collaboration with schools in the UK. Our sister school, SAFA British, will also be looking into taking this on board, and hopefully that will modernise our moderation for writing. And as I said, so I've just put Simon's email down at the bottom here. So if your school is interested in using this platform, just drop in an email. He is fantastic help, and he did an amazing induction with our staff. So we're all very excited about beginning our journey with Pubble.
And on that as well, sorry Fee, there's also an example lesson that I created myself for Pink Day next week, which is cancer awareness. And I just kind of want to show you one example of like the kind of things you can do on it. So I've created a lesson based on, because the Year 3 theme is around the world. So we're looking at different inspirational children around the world at the moment. So on this, you can create anything. So you can create slides, you can upload links, you can create online interactive word banks. So again, being tech savvy, you can't give children word mats now because obviously contamination and things like that. So you can create a word bank and you can edit it online as the children are on there. So if the children come up with any more exciting words, rather than you having to, you know, they'll be limited on a certain amount of words on a word bank, you can just type more words in. If children come up with more things, you can just type some more things in. Like I said, you can put hyperlinks on there. It will take you to videos. You can put the success criteria on there. There's literally so much to explore. Where as a school as well, we're also going to start using the Pubble templates for like lessons. So instead of using flip charts or PowerPoint, we're going to start exploring how to use Pubble, because it's a bit more cleaner, a little bit more nicer to look at visually. So, and again, it saves time as well. You won't have to make any word math. You won't have to make any of these extra things. And it's just a really, really nice way to, again, to show how technology can enhance English. And just have a little explore, and please give Simon an email, because he would be happy to answer any questions you guys may have. But he's really passionate, and he's you know, he's a very experienced ex-teacher, and he'll be able to help you with kind of a bit more about that. But a really, really useful tool. I would highly recommend that one. Thanks, Bea.
No worries. Okay, so as well as using Zoom during the pandemic, we used Screencastify. So for those lessons that we couldn't get live teaching, we used Screencastify. Now we've now carried Screencastify over to our classrooms now, especially because I'm in Year 2, so we can't stream phonics anymore. So the way we are now differentiating our phonics is through Screencastify. I would be working live with one group, but we can also use the other groups on their Screencastify. Another tool we also use in Key Stage 1 and FS would be Chatterpix. Okay, so I've just put an example of a Screencastify and also how we use Chatterpix as well. It was to write a diary from Samuel Pepys, and we just did the picture, and it looks like Samuel Pepys is talking. So it just gives that children a little bit more excitement. Another way we use Chatterpix in Key Stage 2, they had to design a new food type for Motion Gate, and we give the children the option how to present. It was either through Chatterpix, Spark Video, to publicize their campaign. So again, it's giving the children the choice of technology, how to use to publish, okay? Just makes it that little bit more interesting and giving them reason for their writing. Again, using the Explore the Character's point of view, so you would have a picture of the character and then the children would be recording their point of view. When they play it back, the character's mouth is moving for what they have said, okay? So it's very good for book reviews and guided reading. I did it in Year 2 last year. They would take a picture of the front cover of the book and then voice their book review over, so it looked like the book was talking. So it was really cool. So you could make like a little library of all of that. Again, writing in first person, describing. So that is a really simple but really effective tool that you could use down the school and also up the school as well. And again, Screencastify is a really, that was one of the things I think I like to bring in now that we're back at school, because it's a really good, if you want differentiation, a class could be outside outside, small group, they're still seeing you, they're still pausing the video, completing activity. So it's a really good tool to continue using when you're back at school.
And again, Fee, it's like we said about making it accessible for all. Like by doing that chat pics, those children who maybe aren't the best writers, by already being able to talk about the book review, it just shows that understanding, and which is obviously in a book review is something you would be looking for anyway as a skill.
Exactly. Okay, there we go.
Okay, so these are just some other tools that we use at SAFA. I'm sure some of you use some of these as well. So we follow Mr. P quite a lot. We've just signed up for his little scheme that we follow, so we're very excited about that. A lot of us have done a lot of PDs with him, and he's a very fantastic inspirational teacher in the UK, and he just comes up with really innovative ways to use technology in the classroom, and he always raves on about being smart with planning and teaching rather than making things longer and more time consuming than need be. So please, I don't know if you want to have a click on this one, Fee, the orangutan. Yeah. This is just kind of an example of like the kind of things that Mr. P teaches to do. But this is an example of Year 4 class.
An immense flash of light lit up my home. That's when I saw it. I was struck dead with fear.
A deafening roar from the metallic monster echoed through my precious home.
Ferociously, a gust of wind tore past me, followed immediately by a huge booming sound, which made the floor rumble. Petrified screams filled the air. From nowhere, my mum appeared.
Without saying a word, she grabbed my hand and led me away. I knew something was wrong.
Okay, thanks, Fee. So that's just like a little taster. So basically what the children did, it gave them purpose for their writing. So they learnt about orangutans being extinct and the rainforest and so on. And then what happened is then, in order for them to publish this advertisement to kind of stop and support their little mission, let's say, they had to do all the prep work beforehand. So they gave them a purpose for their actual writing. So they had to come up with this advertisement. So they had to come up with persuasive language and things like that. And then as a reward and to give it purpose, the children actually published and created a video, and they actually sent this on to different organizations around the world, which again gives it a bit more excitement for the children because their work is actually going somewhere. It's all about the publishing, children being able to publish their work and kind of give it a purpose at the end, rather than you do all this preparation for a newspaper report and at the end they write in their books, then you close their books and that's that. There's no real purpose or end goal really, because you close their books and then that's kind of forgotten about and on to the next thing. So it's just, again, he's really good at giving ways to use technology to give writing purpose, and again it makes it more exciting for the children.
Yeah, Carla, sorry, that just flicked out there. Another thing, our school has just bought into Mr. P's CPD, so it means that all our staff can log on and watch his CPDs across the curriculum, which is really, I know me and Carla both did his CPD when he came over to Dubai, and it was one of the best ones I've ever been on. I know he will be coming back to Dubai, we've heard, in March, fingers crossed, if everything's okay by then. But if he does, really get your school to book you on. It is fantastic. Like, we learned so much and came back and we're so inspired to kind of try out his things that he showed us, especially that orangutan that really stuck with me. I came back and we did a whole poetry session on that orangutan, so it was really, really good. So watch out for his webinars. That would be a really good one to go to. So that's the end of what we do at SAFA. Okay, so any questions, again, just please keep logging them on the chat bar. I know some people have been messaging about Pubble. These slides will be sent on, so Simon's email is on the end of the Pubble page. So yeah, any questions, and I know Alice is coming up next to talk about Sentry, so I'm sure there might be more questions that will pop up then. But yes, so I hope you've enjoyed all the things that we kind of do at SAFA, and yeah, any questions, you just email me and Carla. We are the network lead for the BSME English, so this is our email. So if you need any questions, any advice, just let us know. And again, sorry for the technical problems.
And thanks, Fee. And before we pass you over to the amazing Alice, I just want to kind of remind you guys about the BSME network. and signing up. Please encourage your colleagues to sign up as well. I don't know if anyone's been on there yet, but like, I put a really good example of how we use digital classrooms, so interactive classrooms, to support learners and independence as well. And we've asked some questions about Pobble, because obviously we are new to that program as well. And, you know, because we can't go to schools, we can't go and, you know, and have meetings with other, network meetings with other people, it's very difficult for us to be able to collaborate and share best practice. So this is a really handy tool for us to kind of support each other, especially in the world that we're living in at the moment. You know, more than ever, we do need to be helping each other and, you know, being really savvy with our planning and how we teach English. So please make sure you tell your colleagues, tell your schools, tell your line managers to sign up to the BSB network, and let's just get a really, you know, supportive team going for English in primary.
Hey, Alice, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, I can do. So, can I have host? I'm not actually allowed to screen share at the moment.
Okay.
You can make her a co-host.
Mm-hmm. There we go. That should be new now.
Fantastic. Yeah, there we go. Okay, great. So thanks for that, guys. So hopefully you can see my screen, and I'm here to talk about using intelligent technology in the English classroom. So Sentry is an intelligent platform, and I'll talk more about that in just a second. I wanted to start by giving a little bit of a background about myself. So I taught for about 10 years. I actually was a secondary trained English teacher. I did about 6 years in secondary before I moved to primary, which was a real challenge in itself. Primary teaching is very, very different from secondary. And I was really fascinated by it because it's a very different skill. And in general, students come to us in secondary able to read and write. And obviously in primary, you are kind of doing all that, the kind of groundwork that gets us there. It's also fascinated me, the extent, the kind of level that you taught your students to. I think a lot of secondary English teachers don't actually know the skills that they've learned in primary, and it was really interesting for me. So in terms of Sentry, we are it's a platform that combines artificial intelligence with the latest research in learning science and neuroscience to create a constantly adapting personalized pathway for every student. And also it allows for intelligent interventions data for teachers. That sounds like a real mouthful. There's a lot that's going on into that, and we'll talk about how that works in a English setting. So the way that Sentry works is we break down all our lessons into what we call nuggets. So they're kind of like bite-sized bits of learning, very small lessons between about 3 and perhaps 10 minutes on a very small subject. So in the world of SPAG, for example, it would just be one lesson on what a noun is. And the way that Sentry kind of adapts to students is through our pathway. So we know that all students encounter roadblocks in their learning journey, and these prevent students from developing their skills. So if a student, for example, doesn't know what a noun is, they're not going to be able to progress to understand what a pronoun is, for example. So Sentry works on the understanding that we need to build students' understanding up. I'm going to flip over now to the Sentry platform, and we can see kind of how that works in action. So this is a student's platform here, and each one of these little circles is one of our mini lessons. Again, we call them nuggets. They're like bite-sized bits of learning. And when students first use the platform, they do something called the diagnostic. And a diagnostic is effectively kind of a mini test to work out what students know and what they don't know. It's a series of questions that are not designed to trick students in any way. They are just simply there to figure out what students know and don't know. And if a student doesn't know something, they can click this I don't know button, and that's completely fine. If students type an answer and they get it wrong, for example, they're not told they got it wrong, but all of this information is stored on Sentry to build up a picture of the student of what they need to be taught next in order to progress. Once they've completed their pathway, and I'm going to actually flip back back to my pathway here, it will have already adapted from the second that they complete that first diagnostic. It will look different for every student. Now, the way that Century works is they work their way through this their pathway, and as I said, it is constantly adapting. So even after they've completed the diagnostics, Century might recognise in a nugget later on that actually there's a missing piece of information they need in order to progress, and will start recommending that nugget. There are other reasons for these lessons to be in the pathway. So we can see a little symbol here, set by teacher. At the end of the day, the most important person the most important kind of influence in a student's life is their teacher. So although we want the AI to be suggesting work for students, teachers have complete control over this pathway. So this work can be set by a teacher to ensure that students are completing the same work as everyone else in the class. There's also what we call a memory boost function, which is based on the Ebbinghaus or forgetting curve. What that does is, even if a student has completed a particular topic, we know that students forget things. Now, I mean, I taught almost every year group in school, and I had year 11s tell me that they didn't know what a simile was. So obviously they've been doing that since year 3, so that I know they know. But students forget things. So even if they have completed and done a nugget really successfully, they're likely to have that nugget come back to them as a reminder. What is great about Century is it actually learns about the student. So it will kind of send, as a student uses Century, it will kind of investigate what their long-term memory is like. So it will send students the same nugget again a few weeks later, and if a student has retained that knowledge, it will actually use this memory function a little bit less. Whereas if students have started to forget, you'll see some students have more of these memory boost nuggets in their pathway, just based on the fact that they, are struggling to remember these topics. So let's look at one of our reading nuggets here, and our reading nugget is here is on describing images. And all of our learning materials have both slideshows and videos as well. So the videos are, in this case, 5 minutes long, and they have, they're animated in order to kind of make it interactive. They all have kind of have a go or your turn suggestions in there as well. So there's time for students to pause the video and work along with the teacher. All of these are created by qualified teachers. I am the only person in the primary team who's actually got secondary experience. Our other primary teachers all came from different year groups across primary schools. So we work together collaboratively to create all this content and ensure that it's kind of appropriate for the correct age group. Once students have looked at the learning material, they're given, once again, questions. We do try to include images in our questions, and students, particularly with the reading tasks, are asked to read a short section of text and then complete a question on it. Now, our reading and our SPAG courses are based towards the Key Stage 2 tests that students would complete in the UK. But obviously, I think partly my influence was very much along the lines of, although that test is really important, we want to make sure that students love reading because, well, that's incredibly important, as we all know, but also that they are adopting skills that will help them in life, and they understand that they're reading for meaning. They're not just reading to perform better in a test. In the case of our nuggets, when a student submits an answer, if they get that question wrong, they're kind of told why, or they're suggested why that answer is wrong. They're not given the correct answer. They're given 3 chances a day, so you can see the little number 3 in the bottom corner here, to reveal the correct answer though. So if they wanted to, they can see what the correct answer is. So it does, they do have an opportunity to do that. Again, once they complete their nugget, then they are moved on to the next one. In terms of our SPAG course, again, it's linked to the national curriculum, and our SPAG courses are broken down into, at the moment, years 3, 4, and then 5 and 6. We're actually creating separate year 5 and 6 courses at the moment, and they are again kind of year group appropriate. So this is actually from our year 4 course, but it is a year 3 nugget. It's a year 3 topic, nouns. So if I press, I'm hoping if I press this, you might be able to hear this video, but probably not. Let's try to identify some nouns next. And you can see here, this is our robots, and our robots are, us as robots are new to our SPAG courses, and they are designed to kind of help students recognise and remember the different word classes. So we try and bring in kind of little images that are unique to us. So this is our SPAG and reading courses on Century, and there are several ways that our schools use this. And I know, I think Safa uses it as a kind of homework tool, as an extension task for students. We've got, that was, I think, probably the most popular way of using it before lockdown. Now we've obviously, I've been speaking to schools over this period, and it's been used in a number of ways. Some schools are using it to assess understanding at the end of a lesson. So if you teach remotely and you teach a lesson on, say, for example, nouns, or even a reading lesson, at the end of the lesson, you can ask all the students to go onto their Sensory platform, and you could have placed a nugget at the front of the pathway and say, right, complete this nugget on nouns, for example, and you can, as a teacher, immediately see the score. And we'll look at that in just a second. You can also use it, as Safa does, as a homework tool. And one of my favorite ways to do that is actually, instead of saying complete 3 lessons on Century or 2 lessons on Century per week, you say spend half an hour on Century per week. Now, the reason that works is because some students will complete 2 lessons in that time, some may complete 5. And it will depend on the student. Those 5 lessons might be very different from another student who's completing 5 lessons, but those lessons have been selected for them to ensure that they are making progress. So for your kind of high achievers, they'll be pushed to more challenging lessons. And for other students, it might be that actually you set them a lesson on pronouns, and Century has recognized the fact that they've struggled with what you've set them, and that the block there might be the fact that they're not recognizing what a noun is. So they are taken back to ensure that that is something that they can kind of overcome that challenge. In terms of what a teacher gets from Century, all of the data is available to teachers. So this is a teacher mark book from the primary reading course. And you can see that although kind of their mark book looks like lots of students haven't completed work, this is an example of the AI in action. Students won't be sent to all the same lessons. They'll be sent to work and lessons that are appropriate to them. A lesson here like similes is one that I would suggest the teacher has set for the whole class to complete, perhaps as part of a lesson. If I was teaching a text the following week, which contained a lot of similes, and I wanted to make sure that my whole class understood them, I might have set this similes nugget the week before as homework, asked them to complete it. And this data allows me to see, right, who is going to be ready to access this lesson, who might need more support, who might I want to pair. If I wanted to pair students together, I might decide that I put some of these students who've achieved really well with some of the students who struggled a little bit, to make sure that everyone can kind of access the text together. So the data that I get from Century can be used to inform my planning. I can also see, when I click on a student's data, lots of information about what they've actually done here. So I'm able to see how long they've spent. So this student actually spent nearly 10 minutes looking at the slideshow, and they've done some of these questions well. If I click into the question, I can see exactly what the question was and how they answered, which means that if I wanted to, I could sit with this student and kind of go through it with them and say, right, how did we do here? What do you think? Why do you think this answer was incorrect? What do you think the answer might be? So it allows you as a teacher to see how they've answered, and kind of address perhaps the misconception that was that they've had about this topic. You're able to see this across the whole class as well. So I can flick between students, but I'm also able to see as a teacher exactly how all my students answered this same question, which means that I can kind of see patterns in my class. But students, there are also multiple questions here. So actually, if a student resat this similes nugget, they would see a different example of a question. So they're not, if they do repeat the nugget, then they're not just seeing the same question again and learning the answers. So once again, back to the English on Century. So we've got a SPAG course, and our SPAG course is designed to teach patterns in spelling, to allow a development of skills at students' own pace. And obviously that's kind of decided by the teacher, but also allowing for the AI to fill those gaps in learning. And we break it all down into short and engaging lessons. With reading, we really want to encourage students to ask questions of a text. We also we're really focused when we started creating the reading course on providing a wide range of resources. Even in secondary English, I really struggled sometimes to just find kind of short and appropriate passages to share with the class. So we've got, we created a bank of high quality resources. We actually got some authors in to create some kind of short text for us. We used extracts from more challenging classic texts, things like Treasure Island, Alice in Wonderland, The Little Princess. So we've taken all these little texts and we've created learning resources based on that. We wanted to develop skills, so give worked examples on a range of skills, from things like skimming and scanning, extracting information, and even analysis and summary skills that they will need in secondary school, they'll need potentially in kind of tests they do, but generally just to encourage them to ask questions of the text and develop a love of reading. So yes, thank you very much for that. And if you've got any questions, then do please pop them in the chat and I'll see what I can do. Thanks.
Thank you so much for that, Alice. Thank you. Just go back.
And also just to remind you that Century is also can be used across subjects, not just English. It's actually amazing for science and maths as well. So please take a little look at Century.
So that was one of the tools that we also use at SAFA, but because we had the great Alice to talk about it in more detail, so thank you for that. We just thought we'd leave it to the experts. But yeah, it's a really great tool. From year 3 upwards, we use it in SAFA, and as Carla says, across the curriculum. So unfortunately, we don't have Naomi, as I said at the beginning, to speak about Seesaw. When we send along this link, we will have her video inserted. So she'll be speaking about Seesaw. If your school doesn't use it already, you could see when Carla was speaking the many things that Seesaw can do. There's so many opportunities for guided reading, communication, speaking and listening, drama, freeze frame, photos, and all that. So our kids that's our main platform at SAFA for uploading work, etc. So we will put that in so you'll be able to see a little bit more about Seesaw if you haven't already got it. Okay, so that will be inserted in the link when we send the webinar through.
There, I'm Naomi. I'm here to talk to you today about Seesaw. What is Seesaw, in fact?
Millions of students, teachers, and families in over 150 countries use Seesaw to increase academic achievement and build a powerful homeschool connection centered around student learning. With intuitive and open-ended tools, students go from consuming to creating in any subject and create a portfolio that grows over time. Because students record their voice, teachers gain insights by understanding each student's thought process, not just the end result. With Seesaw, all families can see and support their child's learning, regardless of language spoken or device used at home. Our premium service, Seesaw for Schools, is the best way to harness the power of Seesaw to build a thriving and connected community at your school or district. Here's why. Save time and do more with fewer apps. Premium tools like multi-page and drafts help teachers save time and provide the best learning experience for their students. Align curriculum and track student progress. With Seesaw Skills, student work is connected to the curriculum standards you care about and teachers get an organized view of student progress, all as part of their existing classroom routine. Year-over-year portfolios help teachers and families see how their students have grown over time. Plus, with Seesaw for Schools, families only have to sign up once. Increase collaboration and community. Enable even more co-teachers and specialists to connect with any Seesaw class in order to support student growth together. Staff can collaborate and save prep time by sharing lesson ideas in an activity library personalized to your school or district. Get visibility and additional data controls. School leaders and coaches love using their Seesaw for Schools admin dashboard to be visible, engaged, and supportive for the entire school community. Analytics reveal actionable information about family engagement and 21st century skills. And school-wide settings help Seesaw align with your school or district's privacy preferences. Make setup simple and save teachers time with bulk roster import and SIS sync options. Ensure all student data remains centrally managed and easily merge existing Seesaw accounts into your school subscription. With best-in-class privacy practices, your data is safe and secure, no matter where you are. Seesaw is loved and trusted by tens of thousands of schools and districts across the world. Inspire every student to be their best with Seesaw for Schools.
Now, let's explore how technology can support great teaching and learning. First, let's take a look at two learning experiences. Here we have Learning Experience A, a multiplication worksheet students will work on individually to solve different multiplication problems. Here we have Learning Experience B, where students are given an activity on Seesaw to meet the same goals. They will play a card game called War, where they will multiply their cards together to determine who has the highest outcome.
Okay, girls, so this time we're going to play War with two cards, and instead of adding the cards together to see who's got the biggest number, we're going to multiply it. And then the big number gets to take the pile and is the winner chicken dinner. Got it? All right, here we go. I got 80. I'm the winner. You can congratulate me. 35. Winner again.
32. 90.
I got 4.
90.
I'm a loser.
80.
I got 20.
So here you can see students are engaging with each other, practicing this skill, but also able to record and share this learning experience within Seesaw. So let's think about which learning experience you would prefer as a teacher and as a student. If you're watching this with a colleague, feel free to pause here and discuss with those around you, or let's carry on. So you might have thought, Experience A builds a narrow skill set. It is a repetitive activity that might drill in a certain skill, but has not much excitement for a student. Experience B engages students to build, practice, and apply skills in an interactive way. Their learning lives in Seesaw, so it is visible and can show growth over time. And it gives students a fun way to learn anywhere. Students thrive when they can actively explore new ideas like this and make their thinking and learning visible. Not only is it helpful for teachers to have insight into students' thinking and growth, but it's also helpful for students to be able to see and reflect on their own progress. So today, we're going to learn to use essential Seesaw tools to create engaging learning experiences with technology that make thinking and learning visible. Let's take a look at two Seesaw activities. Here we have Show What You Know in Math. So you can see that students are given step-by-step instructions to tap the Draw and Record tool to record their thinking, use a pen to outline each shape, and then a pen or a label to label fractions within those shapes. Students are given instructions on how to submit. They're also given audio instructions to support with different literacy levels. You see here that students also have a template to start off from. So the teacher has assigned a template that students will base their work from. In this activity, we have partner reading power for beginners. Here, you also have written and audio instructions for students to take a picture of a book that they're reading, tap the microphone to record their reading with a partner. Here, students are able to demonstrate their learning, continue practicing at home or in school, and teachers have that insight with the audio recording. Let's think about what makes these activities effective. You might have said that there's a clear objective here. There's a clear why for each activity. You know the purpose. There's also step-by-step text and audio directions to be inclusive of all learners. They both use multimedia examples and resources. They support exploration through hands-on digital tools. Students can still read a physical book, but still share how that's going with you digitally. And there's a layer of reflection. The draw and record tool is really powerful because students are able to hear themselves, play their own voice back, and then re-record after realizing that they may have left something out, or they may have pronounced something in a different way. You can really amplify learning with technology. And in Seesaw, teachers can use activities to create transformational learning experiences that support engagement, agency, and reflection for all students. Let's take a look at what this looks like within Seesaw. Now, if you want to follow along and create an account with me, feel free to pause as you go and make your account now, or use this as a resource for later. If you don't already have one, you can go to app.seesaw.me to create your own teacher account. These are free, and you'll get access to the base level features within Seesaw. When you fill in the information, you can create your account, or tap the sign in button to sign into an existing account. You can create a new class, name it, and select a grade level that closely matches yours. Then, once you're in your classroom, we'll explore the activity library. When you click the plus add button at the top, you'll be able to do one of three things. You'll be able to post work, you'll be able to assign an activity, or send an announcement to the classroom. Let's start by assigning an activity. Here you have the activity library. You'll see a My Library section, a Community Library section, and a School Library section if your school has subscribed to Seesaw for Schools. In the Community Library, you will see a plethora of activities submitted to Seesaw by educators like yourself. These have all been vetted and uploaded to the Community Library for you to use at your will. You can filter by grade or subject level to find an activity that best fits your needs. And then you can choose to assign it right away. You can heart it and save it to your own library. And you can copy and edit it. So to make any changes to the language, to the instructions, if you want to add your own audio, change the template, you can do all of that by copying and editing the activity. You might want to add a new template or an exemplar so students see what a finished product might look like. You can take a photo or record a video of yourself to explain or add some lecture content. You can use multi-page tool to create a more dynamic template, and you can link to supplemental video or articles. When students receive the activity, they'll see the green plus add button at the bottom. They can click on here and will be taken to the creative tools to start their response. As a teacher, when students submit activities, you can see a summary by clicking on the gray bar at the bottom. Here you can see which students have submitted, who's waiting for an approval from you, who's working on a draft, and how many students have not yet responded. So let's think about how Seesaw activities support teachers in creating learning experiences. You may have thought they're great multimodal directions and resources to make learning accessible and engaging, and teachers have access to all the Seesaw learning tools which support creating, explaining, and sharing. You can also share anything with photo and video tools. You can even upload your own files from your device. Let's take a look at what this looks like in an actual Seesaw classroom. So here we have an activity called Shape Sort. Students will click the Add Response button to start their response, and as a teacher, you can see which students have submitted, who's still in draft, and which students have not yet submitted. So let's pretend to be a student and click Add Response. I'm going to submit a response here, and I'm taken right away to the template from this activity. As a student, I can view the instructions in case I forgot what they said. If there were audio instructions, I could play them here as well. And it tells me that I need to use the record tool. First I need to go to the label tool and move shapes into the correct column. Then I want to record the tool. Then I want to use the record tool to share some of the items that I've moved into those columns. Great. So let's start. I'm sorting shapes into their columns. So I see we have a couple triangles here. I see some squares here. Oh, and let's see if I can get some circles, and that's a rectangle. Great. I want to record my voice and share with my teacher what shapes I moved into which columns. So here are some triangles. I have cheese, I have a flag, I have pizza, I have some squares that are this square black box, a TV, a keyboard. I have some circles like a tennis ball and a cookie. I have some rectangles like a phone. And let's put this circle here, and there's a door here. I can move to rectangle. And done. When I'm done recording my voice, I can hit the done button, and you can see this play button had added my voice into this post. And if I'm done and ready to submit, I'll click the green check as it told me on the instructions, or I can save it as a draft if I'm not quite done and want to come back to it later. Let's say I'm done and I want to submit. I'm going to upload this to my classroom, and it's added to my journal. As a teacher, I can click in and see that that activity has been added here. These are the creative tools that students and teachers both have access to when they are submitting a response. If you use a template, students will get the template to work off of in an activity. But if you use a blank page, students can upload a photo, a video, a file from their device, or use the drawing canvas tool. These are also tools that you have when you want to create an activity for your students. So how does Seesaw's learning tools make student learning visible? And so like we discussed, you can share anything with photo and video. Students can record their voice with a microphone. Pens and labels allow them to annotate their work. Multi-page allows them to show even deeper learning. And students have an authentic audience for their work because it's being added to their journal. And their family members are connected, so they can know that somebody is seeing all the work that they are creating. So let's set a goal for one way that you can use Seesaw to transform your instruction this year. Where do you see Seesaw fitting in your classroom? And that's it. You did it. You learned how to create the criteria for transformational activities, how to create an activity in Seesaw, and how to use multimodal tech tools to make learning accessible. If you have any questions and are interested in having Seesaw at your school, feel free to reach out to me at naomi@seesaw.me and engage in the Seesaw community. You can follow us on Twitter, join the Seesaw Teachers Facebook group, and discover more training on our website and training pages.
So please remember to just share with your colleagues, the BSB network. All of these webinars will be available to you as well to look over. And again, obviously things like, for example, Seesaw, please feel free, if you have any questions as well, or you want to ask a bit more how to do a certain thing or how to use English this way on Seesaw, use the discussion boards on the webinar network platform, sorry. So we're going to have some questions now. Fee will read through some of the questions, and sorry, will you put them on the answers on the webinar or now?
Yeah, so
okay.
If anyone has any questions, if you would like to just pop it up now. I know a lot of people are actually teaching at this time, so it's probably more worthwhile because the email is on the webinars, they'll be able to email you directly, Alice, if they do have any questions. And again, if you want any more details of what we do at SAFA, just drop us an email.
And please remember to just keep engaging on the discussion boards. This is our tool for us all to support each other. And if you have anything network specific resources you would like to share as well, sharing best practice, things that you do in your school, then please load them on the resources forum as well. Our next webinar is going to be on leading high quality English. And we're going to be having James Woodhead from ISI and Rachel Higgins from Tamira Primary School. They're going to be joining us as well and showing us their expertise, and that will be in November.
Yeah, what month?
November.
Yeah.
Yeah, November.
Okay, so that's the end of the webinar. So thank you all for coming. I know I can't see all your faces, but I really appreciate you all coming along. And as Carla said, let's just keep the conversation going on the platform to support all of us through this unknown time of teaching and more exciting. So we'll look at the more positive side just to get and dive into this new academic year. A big thank you to Alice. Thank you so much, Alice, for sharing all your expertise about Sentry. So again, if you have any questions, please email Alice directly, okay? But thank you so much today, and for me and Carla both, we'll be seeing you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.